Baltic states delegation, we have representatives of Lithuania and Estonia, Mr. Kubilius, former Prime Minister of Lithuania, Mr. Ažubalis, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, and also the representative of Estonia.
Mr. Andrius Kubilius, who is the former Prime Minister of Lithuania and leader of the opposition, as well as Juhan, a former Prime Minister of Estonia, and also he served for 7 years as a Minister of Economy. And also Mr. Ažubalis, who is a former Minister of Foreign Ministry in Lithuania. All of the gentlemen are members of their respective parliaments, so we're very pleased to have you here, and I'll just ask Mr. Kubilius to start, and you can...
Okay, I will try very briefly to say just a few words. We are members of our conservative parties. We established last year some kind of informal network of EPP members from different countries with the goal to support Ukraine, to support other Eastern Partnership countries. And now we have such a joint visit where we have really a very clear agenda to find the ways how we can assist Ukraine using our opportunities being members of EU and members of NATO. So I was here also last week with a group which was led by a very famous economist Andrius Kubilius from the United States of America, and so I will try to say just a few words of our conclusions. First of all, of course, speaking about security issues. After Mariupol tragedy, the picture is very clear. I think that one issue which we need to do, one step which we need to do in the Western community is, first of all, to change the language. To change the language to describe in a proper way what really is happening. It's no way, we cannot use anymore such words like Ukrainian crisis or separatist war. It's simply and very clearly it's a war of Mr. Putin. It's a Putin's war, and that is what we need to declare very clearly in the Western community. Mr. Putin and his war is becoming more and more similar to the war of Slobodan Milosevic. We should remember that Slobodan Milosevic finished his career and finished his life in Hague Tribunal, and Mr. Putin should know such a perspective. The Western community should not only describe in a very clear language Putin's war here in Ukraine, but also Western community should make much more effective and much more strict economical sanctions, perhaps including removal of Russia from so-called SWIFT system. From another side, I would like to continue what your deputy head of President office was speaking about. Our impression is very clear. We can congratulate this government of Ukraine, which is moving ahead with very big reforms in all the different areas. We had the possibility to understand or we were shown what kind of reforms are going to be done and what team you have to make those reforms. And really, when you see the government where only one still not speaks English, and where a lot of young, very well-educated professionals coming from investment banking are volunteering to become ministers of government, in some way I started even to envy when I was comparing, our governments and current government, of course. We are in opposition at the moment. So indeed we are ready to share our experience, how we did such reforms, how important is effective political management of approval of reforms. But even now we can say to the Western world that Ukraine really is going through the path of radical reforms, starting from liberalization of energy prices and finishing with police reforms, which yesterday we listened to Vice Minister, and we were really very much impressed. We are ready to share our experience of reforms in different ways. We are discussing possibilities together with International Republican Institute from US to expand the activities which they were doing together with our parliament, Lithuanian parliament, assisting Moldova parliament and Georgian parliament to extend such a program to Ukrainian parliament. As I said, I am also a member of so-called economical experts group, which is led by Andrius, but in any case, really, we admire what you are doing, and we are ready to assist in all the possible ways. Juhan, you.
So thank you very much. I just can very briefly, I fully agree what my Lithuanian colleague, Mr. Kubilius, said. I just want to maybe fix three important findings during our visits and meetings in a very high level. First, the security issue. It's very clear that European Union and hopefully the United States reaction after the last week's attacks will be proper. On Thursday, the foreign ministers of EU will come together in Brussels, and also we are pushing that the Estonian government will stand for more sanctions, adequate wording, what is happening, and also tight coordination with the United States. The second, about reforms, I was impressed. We all understand and realize how important it is to communicate also not only to Ukrainian people but also the Western world. And I get a lot of a good impression that the present government is really going on the very right directions. In-depth reform, very comprehensive reforms, and I can confirm our commitment to support as much as we can. From the EU side, it's very clear that also the supporters, as European Union is we needed a better coordination. All the projects, all the technical assistance, financial, human resource, knowledge, experiences should be well focused and well prioritized, and the EU certainly needed a better coordination here. And the third issue is economy. Of course, we all know the difficult economic situation, the negotiation, IMF, stabilizing the currency, banking system, etc. But I think what is important that we have to also work on restoring trust for the private investors, not only in the capital markets, but also in the real economy. The real economy is starting to move when the private investors, both local and foreign investors, come back and starting the new enterprises and new investments. For that is a lot of, it depends very much on the successes of the reforms, which is, I think, ongoing. And the second, of course, the Europe as a whole needs much more measures to encourage private investors to invest in Ukraine. So this is my very short conclusions of these 2 days visits here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What I would like to say in short. First of all, in my opinion, we Europeans and Americans, we are exhausted all possibilities of political dialogue with Russia. Now we do not need, and it's useless, to start again negotiate, or, which is just simply not a real negotiation process, but it's an imitation from the Russia side. What we do need, we need a real, expanded, sectoral economical sanctions. Only one way what we could do now. And here we see, how to say, that the United States is leading, and our goal is a very simple one: to mobilize our allies in the European Union to support Americans' desire to expand economical sanctions to Russia. But on the other hand, we see also that the United States is a little bit reluctant to help to Ukraine and to supply Ukrainian army with a little weaponry. And here we also, I think, have our own role, showing our initiative and with all our possibilities, helping Ukrainian army. But here we also want to press our allies and to state very simple truth that without the modern weaponry, the Russian army will always have some advantage, because it's not a secret that your army was, how to say, somehow on the backyard during the Yanukovych time. This is how I see our political goals in present day of Europe and world. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions.
Good day, my name is Christina, I'm from UCMC. I would like to address my question to Mr. Kubilius. You mentioned that you like what Ukraine does. Could you specify what exactly you meant by that? And further on, what are the obstacles that you might see or you might have noticed for Ukraine to implement reforms? Thank you.
Well, I will start from the last part of your question. Our experience is showing that in implementing reforms, 10% of the job is to write the proper, draft of the legislation. 90% is political management and political communication. So that is where we have some kind of experience. We can tell, very simple stories. How sometimes miscommunication in between of the government and parliament can kill the reforms. We went through that, in our experience, and we know that this political management really is a very big task for members of the government, leaders of the coalition, and that is where we see what is really where our experience can be of some value. Second, what is very much needed. And our permanent advice was during all those days, and we met last week with Mr. Shimkiv, and the same advice we gave. It's the government and coalition leadership should have very clear list of priorities. Which reforms are they going to implement as quickly as possible? Some reforms are very long-term, like reforms of judicial, systems, but some reforms are very much needed to make them now, like fiscal consolidation. From our experience, to have 12% deficit, it's not sustainable, but you have a very clear agenda what you can do. It's gas prices liberalization, which immediately will cut 7% of deficit. So there is a list what you are planning to do, what you can do, and what perhaps simply you need to learn how to communicate in a more effective way. We saw yesterday, as I said, police reforms, which are giving results quite soon. We were informed, and this is exactly a very good example how this new government is able not only to plan reforms, to speak about reforms, but also to implement them and to have, real results. So that is very, 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 very good.
Здравствуйте, Вячеслав.
Vyacheslav, news from Makiivka. Taking into the account that you have done that already, to what extent do you believe economic reforms will take a certain part in other reforms? I will try to answer in Russian. Economic reforms are important, especially when the economy is in such a difficult situation. It is important to stabilize fiscal situation, not to allow financial markets to start panic. That's important. That is what we were doing in the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. When we had the global crisis, our economy went down even more than in your case, and we were doing that in both Estonia and Lithuania. We managed to stabilize the situation. That was very important. But the economy itself, without anti-corruption reforms, without reforms of the judicial system, cannot live. Business has to feel confident, investors are to feel confident, and they get confidence when they see that the financial system is stable, that the system of law is stable, it protects the property. These things are interrelated. I can just tell, in the end, 10 years ago, soon it will be 11 years ago, when we became the members of EU. We became the members of EU, we had 45% of GDP per capita compared to European level, average European level. Within these 10 years, we achieved 75%. The growth was very good. For what is important for us, that we are ahead of Estonians. That's maybe not that important, but our economy was developing very quickly, and that was done via reforms. And we are approaching the European standards, and Ukraine has all the chances to follow the same route. We can show what we were doing.
You mentioned the EU Foreign Council meeting, which will take place on Thursday. What are your expectations? How do you think the various EU governments represented there will actually decide? I understand it's difficult to sort of make any projections or make any forecasts, but maybe something in that light which you could elaborate about, as well as maybe mention something about the recent results of the elections in Greece and the victory of the Syriza party, which has formed a coalition with the far-right group in Greece. Do you think it can have an effect on that?
Thank you very much. First of all, here is a war. But in the same time, we have to consider that the other goal of Russia is to split European Union. So therefore, I think the first and the foremost is that European Union, with all these meetings, discussions, are very crucial to keep one joint positions, starting from their assessment of what is going on the ground, and the common policy lines, short-term and long-term. This is what we are really looking for, that on the Thursday meeting, all the 28 countries and foreign ministries get one room and one assessment what have happened last week and two, and what will be continuation of the coming weeks and months. This is very important. The same important is also that the European Union and the United States keep on the same coordination line. These are very important, not to give opportunity to start to do too much to battle between us. That's the first. But this is not enough in this time. The second, of course, certainly, I will be very disappointed when the Thursday meeting will finished as just about discussion, just about changing views and information. So certainly need to make the next step to tightening the sanctions. I know in the Brussels there are already different options for different sanctions, and that's up to the ministers to make the next step further. The third, what I really looking for, and I give feedback to my government, that additionally, as we all know here, there is a front in the East Ukraine, but I think there is a front also here to really go further with the reforms. And European Union should significantly improve the coordination of different technical assistance program projects working together with Ukrainian government. This couldn't be as a business as usual, where we certainly work with the different partner countries for EU. This also should be discussed, because I think it should be also on the agenda to create optimism that the reforms and the European way have been making very serious steps. Greece is another story. Of course, the Greece, I really hope that the new Greece government will be responsible. There are clear rules, there are clear opportunities, but I really hope that the Greece issue will be not on so high on the agenda, because the new government needed time, certainly to get all information needed, and then, as we already heard, there's a possible some kind of negotiations. But anyway, the rules which have been accepted, which is guaranteeing the common eurozone, is there, and every single country would like to be a member of the EU and the eurozone should remember that all the pacta sunt servanda, so all the agreements should be implemented. If this is not will be the case, all the trust and credibility of euro will be under consideration, and this is what we can't allow, just simply.
A few words. It's not a secret that European Union is divided. South flank and eastern flank. And, but here I don't like to agree with my distinguished colleague when you emphasize, Juhan, that the common position is a crucial. The practice shows when you're trying to get the common position, you're going to have some concessions. And these concessions becoming, I would say, an escape way for aggressors. Oh, we are trying to get the common position. The common position, of course, lowering the expectations of the countries concerned, and we are, at the end of the day, we are getting zero result. Here I see that the forthcoming Foreign Affairs Council meeting and the future meetings, I think, need to rethinking our countries and our allies' position and the behavior in Foreign Affairs Council. What I mean? I mean that we know and we are very much understand and respect our colleagues from the South flank. We know what's going on from the North Africa, the terrorists are coming. It's a real matter of common concern. But at the same time, if we are understanding them and always supporting them, we should expect the same support and understanding from their side to our concern. And this should be put on the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. I know that you have a busy schedule, so have a productive day and the rest of you stay here.